everything was a threat to me.
Why was I a threat?
I was so driven by fear and jokes and comedy and all of that.
Yeah, you were live. You were live. You were live.
For millions, the Banks family was the perfect family. But behind the laughter and the iconic theme song, a secret war was tearing them apart. One actor was exiled, careers were almost ruined, and a 30-year feud was born. This is the real, untold story of what happened when the cameras stopped rolling on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and why some of its biggest stars walked away forever. The Queen and the Prince.
My grandma told your grandma she gonna set your flag on fire.
Come on. If you talking about ain't no.
When the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air first aired in 1990, it felt like magic. The show was built around a young rapper from Philadelphia named Will Smith. He was charming, funny, and about to become one of the biggest stars in the world. But the heart of the show was the family that took him in, the Banks family. And at the center of that family was the strong, smart, and elegant matriarch, Aunt Vivian, played by Janet Hubert. What many viewers did not know was that Janet Hubert was a star in her own right long before she moved to Bel-Air. She was a serious, highly trained artist. Born in Chicago, she earned a special scholarship to study at the world-famous Juilliard School in New York City. From there, she went straight to the biggest stage in the world, Broadway. She performed in the musical The First and was part of the original cast of one of the most famous musicals ever, Cats. She was a seasoned professional with years of experience. Then came The Fresh Prince. The show was an instant hit, but behind the scenes, a problem was growing. Janet, the experienced Broadway actress, was now in a supporting role to Will Smith, a 21-year-old kid who was famous for his music but had almost no acting experience. This created a clash. Janet reportedly had high standards for how people should act on a professional set, and she felt Will was not meeting them. Will Smith saw things differently. Years later, he would say that the tension was clear from the beginning. During a radio interview in 1993, right after Janet left the show, Will did not hold back. He told the world that Janet Hubert wanted the show to be the Aunt Viv of Bel-Air show. He claimed she was resentful of his sudden fame. He even said she once told him, "I have been in the business for 10 years, and this snotty-nosed punk comes along and gets a show." To her, he felt, he was just the Antichrist. The conflict was more than just two people not getting along. It was a clash of two different worlds. One was the disciplined world of Broadway theater, and the other was the fast-paced world of a TV sitcom built around a young pop culture icon. Joseph Marcel, the actor who played the beloved butler Jeffrey, was close to Janet. He later said that Janet had a very hard time accepting that the show was all about Will Smith. The stage was set for a battle, but no one could have predicted how painful it would become, or that the real reasons for the fight were hidden deep behind a wall of secrets. The unseen war.
And the level of struggle that it was for you just to show up every day. And then...
But you took all that away from me.
As the show entered its third season, the tension on set was getting worse. But Janet Hubert was dealing with something far more serious than disagreements at work. At home, her life was falling apart. She was pregnant with her son, and this part of her life was actually written into the show. The character of Little Nikki Banks was created because Janet herself was expecting a baby. But behind the happy storyline of a new baby joining the Banks family, Janet was living a nightmare. For years, she kept a painful secret. She was in what she would later describe as a very abusive marriage. The stress and fear from her home life followed her to the set every single day. During the emotional Fresh Prince reunion special in 2020, Janet finally told Will Smith and the world what she was going through. She said, "I was no longer laughing, smiling, joking because there were things that were going on that nobody knew about." The cast and crew saw her becoming quiet and distant, but they had no idea why. She explained that she stopped talking to everyone on set because she did not know who she could trust. She felt completely alone. Will Smith later admitted he saw that she was struggling, but at just 21 years old, he did not understand the depth of her pain. He said his own fear drove him, and that as a young man, suddenly at the center of a huge TV show, everything felt like a threat to him. He was not sensitive to what she was going through, and he admitted that he made the set a very difficult place for Janet. This perfect storm of personal crisis and on-set friction came to a head when it was time to negotiate her contract for the 4th season. According to Janet, the network NBC did not offer her a good deal. They offered her a contract for only 10 weeks of work, which was a significant pay cut. Worse, the contract said she was not allowed to work on any other projects during the rest of the year. Her agent told her it was a terrible offer and that she should not accept it, believing the network would come back with a better one. But they never did. The studio decided not to renegotiate. Instead, they chose to simply replace her. For years, the story was that she was fired for being difficult. But Janet explained the truth at the reunion. She said, "I was never fired." She felt she had no choice but to turn down the bad deal. In her own words, she was trapped. And just like that, the original Aunt Viv was gone. But her battle was far from over. In fact, it was about to get much, much worse. The kiss of death.
I feel like this is a dream. I didn't come here to have animosity. I came here to resolve. Because it's time.
After Janet Hubert left the show, the fight between her and Will Smith exploded into the public. Will's 1993 radio interview was just the beginning. By openly saying she was bitter and wanted to be the star, he painted a picture of a difficult, jealous actress. He did not know it at the time, but with those words, he had handed her a professional death sentence. Janet's career, which had been so bright, was destroyed overnight. In the reunion special, she looked Will in the eyes and told him the devastating truth. She said, "I lost everything, reputation, everything." She explained that for a black woman in Hollywood, being labeled as difficult is the worst thing that can happen. She called it the kiss of death, especially for a dark-skinned black woman in the business. Suddenly, the phone stopped ringing. The job offers dried up. She felt completely banished not just by Will, but by all of Hollywood. The pain went even deeper. Her own family turned on her, telling her that she had ruined their name. She had a new baby to care for, and no job. She was an outcast. For more than a decade, she struggled to find steady work. It was not until 2005 that she landed a recurring role on the daytime soap opera One Life to Live, a far cry from the primetime success she once had. The feud raged on for nearly 30 years. Janet did not stay silent. She often spoke out against Will Smith in the media. In 2011, she told reporters that there would never be a Fresh Prince reunion because she would never do anything with a person like Will Smith. She called him an egomaniac who had not grown up and said a reunion could only happen if he apologized, a word she claimed he did not know. The narrative was set in stone. Will Smith was the beloved global superstar, and Janet Hubert was the bitter actress who was fired for being difficult. It was a simple story, but it was not the true story, and it would take 27 long years for the truth to come out and for the healing to begin, finally. But before that could happen, the show had to go on, and that meant finding a new Aunt Viv. A new aunt, a different show.
Oh, come on, absolutely, Aunt Viv. We got each other back.
Great, great, great. You two just be careful. There are a lot of sick, demented perverts out there.
With Janet Hubert gone, the producers had to find a new actress to play Vivian Banks. They chose Daphne Maxwell Reid, a talented actress who, in a strange twist of fate, had actually been offered the role years earlier. Back in 1989, before the show even started, she was asked to audition, but she passed on the opportunity. She said at the time that she was not interested in doing a sitcom with a rapper who was not an actor. When she saw how successful the show became, she thought she had missed her chance. But when the role opened up again after season 3, she jumped at the second chance. It was not easy. She had to audition against nearly 300 other actresses from all over the country. She later said she believed her amazing chemistry with James Avery, who played the powerful Uncle Phil, is what helped her win the part. When season 4 started, the show made a quick joke about the change. The character Jazz, Will's best friend, looks at the new Aunt Viv and says that something looks different about her. After that, the change was never mentioned again. But for viewers, the difference was impossible to ignore. It was not just a new actress, it was a completely new character. The original Aunt Viv, played by Janet Hubert, was a force of nature. She was a university professor with a PhD. She was strong, she was outspoken, and she was a powerful role model. She was the one who taught a young Ashley about Black history, and who delivered an iconic dance routine that showed she was more than just a stuffy professor. Janet's performance was so good that she was nominated for an NAACP Image Award in 1991. The new Aunt Viv, played by Daphne Maxwell Reid, was much different. The writers changed the character completely. She was no longer a career-driven professor. She became a housewife who was much quieter and more supportive of her husband than she was a powerhouse in her own right. The fire that defined the original character was gone. She was pushed into the background, often with little to do in the show's storylines. This was likely not an accident. After the conflict with a strong-willed actress like Janet Hubert, the show's creators seemed to want a character who would not challenge the status quo. They replaced a queen with a quiet supporter, and in doing so, they changed the dynamic of the Banks family forever. The drama surrounding Aunt Viv was the biggest storm to hit the show, but she was not the only actor to make a sudden exit. As the seasons went on, other familiar faces would disappear from Bel-Air, but for very different reasons. The case of the disappearing girlfriends.
You wouldn't have left me here alone. None of this mess would ever happen.
That's it. I didn't come all the way here from Philly to hear
Well, it's gonna happen to you. Don't be all up in my grill.
Not every actor who left The Fresh Prince did so because of a feud. Sometimes the reasons were much simpler and had more to do with the business of making television. This was the case for two of Will's most memorable girlfriends, played by Tyra Banks and Nia Long. Tyra Banks was just 19 years old when she joined the cast in season 4 as Jackie Ames, Will's old friend from Philadelphia. For Tyra, this was a huge deal. The Fresh Prince was her very first acting job. Before that, she was already on her way to becoming a world-famous supermodel, walking the runways in Paris for the biggest fashion designers. She appeared in 8 episodes, and her character Jackie was a big part of Will's life at college. Then, suddenly, she was gone. In her last appearance, she is seen with a new boyfriend, and she is never mentioned again. So why did she leave? The reason was purely practical. At the time, no one knew if the show would continue past season 4. The writers were preparing for it to be the final season, so they gave her character's story a neat ending. Tyra's modeling career was also exploding, and she was becoming one of the most in-demand models on the planet. Her time on the show was over, but her career was just getting started. A similar thing happened with Nia Long, who played Lisa Wilkes in season 5. Lisa was Will's most serious girlfriend. Their relationship was a huge storyline, and they even got engaged and had a massive 2-part wedding episode. Nia was cast in the role after the producers first considered another actress, Jada Pinkett. But Jada was thought to be too short to play opposite the very tall Will Smith, so Nia got the part. At the end of season 5, Will and Lisa stood at the altar, ready to get married. But at the last second, they realized they were not ready and called it off. The plan was likely for this to be a big series finale event. But then NBC unexpectedly ordered a 6th season. The writers had a problem. They could not have a married Fresh Prince. The whole point of the show was his life as a single guy. So Lisa and her father were quietly written out of the show, and their storyline came to an abrupt end. The exits of Tyra Banks and Nia Long show a different side of Hollywood. It is not always about drama and fighting. Often, it is about contracts, ratings, and the simple fact that a show's future is never guaranteed. But while some characters came and went, the core family of the show remained. And for them, Life After Bel-Air would be just as amazing as the show itself. Life After Bel-Air.
If you just sit around the house all afternoon and never develop any outside interests, you become a very, very shallow person.
Karen Parsons, who played the spoiled but lovable Hillary Banks, chose a different path after the show ended. She stepped away from the constant spotlight of Hollywood to focus on her family. But her creative spirit never left her. Inspired by the stories her librarian mother used to tell her, Karen founded an amazing organization called Sweet Blackberry. The foundation creates animated films and books that teach children about incredible black heroes from history whose stories are often untold. She has worked with stars like Queen Latifah and Chris Rock to bring these stories to life. Today, Karen is a successful author of children's books, using her platform to educate and inspire a new generation. Tatiana Ali, who grew up on screen as the bright and talented Ashley Banks, continued to shine after the show. She followed her passions for both acting and music, even releasing a hit album. But in recent years, she has found a powerful new calling. After a difficult and scary experience during the birth of her first son, Tatiana became a fierce advocate for black maternal health. She learned that black women in America face much higher risks during pregnancy and childbirth. So she started her own company called Baby Yams, which raises money to provide scholarships for black and indigenous women to become midwives, ensuring more mothers get the safe and respectful care they deserve. Alfonso Ribeiro became a household name as the nerdy, preppy Carlton Banks, and he created one of the most famous dances in television history. After the show, he proved his talent once again by winning the competition show Dancing with the Stars. That victory launched a whole new career for him as a beloved television host. He took over as the host of America's Funniest Home Videos and now co-hosts Dancing with the Stars, bringing his infectious energy to millions of homes every week. And then there is Joseph Marcel, the man who played Jeffrey, the sophisticated and sarcastic British butler. Joseph was a classically trained actor long before The Fresh Prince, and after the show, he returned to his first love, the theater. He became a respected member of the Royal Shakespeare Company in London. He has taken on some of the most challenging roles ever written, including playing the lead role of King Lear to great acclaim. He even made a special guest appearance on the new dramatic reboot of the show, Bel-Air, connecting the old generation with the new. For these actors, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was not an ending. It was a launching pad that allowed them to build stable, successful, and meaningful lives. They carried the positive spirit of the show with them, and their stories provide a happy contrast to the painful journey of the show's first Aunt Viv. But that painful journey was about to take one final unexpected turn. The 30-year truce.
Celebrate your contribution to this show, celebrate your contribution to my life, and...
Come here, you.
For 27 years, the feud between Will Smith and Janet Hubert seemed like a wound that would never heal. But in 2020, to celebrate the show's 30th anniversary, something incredible happened. The cast gathered for a reunion special, and Will Smith knew he had to do something he should have done decades earlier. He said he could not celebrate the show without celebrating Janet. He reached out to her, and for the first time in nearly 3 decades, they sat down to talk, just the two of them. In a raw and emotional conversation, Janet finally told him her full story. She told him about her secret struggles at home, about her pregnancy, and about the immense pain his public words had caused her. She told him how being called difficult had destroyed her career and how she had lost everything. And Will listened. Now a father and a man who had been through his own life struggles, he finally understood. He looked at her and apologized. He admitted that he was not sensitive or perceptive back then. He said that having his own children and going through a divorce taught him things he never knew as a young man. He told her he could now see the level of pain and struggle it must have taken for her just to show up to work every day. He acknowledged that his actions were flawed and hurtful, and that he had made the set a difficult place for her. It was the apology she had waited almost 30 years to hear. And in that moment, the anger began to melt away. Janet also apologized to Will, saying she was sorry for all the harsh things she had said about him in the press over the years. She later said that when she looked at him, she saw the scared 21-year-old boy he used to be, and she understood. The conversation ended with a tearful hug. As they embraced, Will told her, "You are still my Aunt Viv." The war was finally over. Since that day, Will and Janet have stayed in touch. They text each other often, and they have even appeared at events together, smiling like the old friends they now are. The healing that took place was not just about forgetting the past. It was about acknowledging the truth, no matter how painful it was. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air taught a generation about family, laughter, and love. But the real behind-the-scenes story of its cast teaches us something even more profound. It shows us that behind the brightest Hollywood smiles, there can be deep pain and struggle. It reminds us that stories are never as simple as they seem. But most of all, it teaches us that even after 30 years of anger and exile, the truth can lead to forgiveness, and a broken family can finally find its way back together.